Hello guys, this is Leo, and today in lecture 5 we are going to be dealing with 40 basic shell commands you must know. Now take note that you cannot say you're a software engineer without knowing these 40 commands. So let's delve right in and find out what these commands are. Now our very first command is who am I, and this command displays the username of the currently logged in user. So here in my terminal, when I type in the command who am I, it echoes my name back to me. The currently logged in user is Moonspeed. So maybe you are using a system, you're working in an organization, several users are in the system. You want to find out who is the currently logged in user when you sit behind the PC or the console or the machine. You want to type out the command who am I. You can see who the user is. Now the second command is cal, and this command displays a calendar. Very important. You want to find out what today is, or you want to display a calendar on your terminal. The command to use is cal, C-A-L, and displays a calendar right there. To our third command, mkdir. This command makes a directory. Great. So in my terminal, I'm going to be working in the shell commands directory. And in my graphic user interface, as you can see, the shell commands directory. A directory is the same as a folder. When I open it, it has just one file inside it, which is test.md, and it's a markdown file. So when I ls over here, you can see that the test.md file is right inside here. Ls simply means you want to list. We have not come to that command yet. Great. So we are dealing with the command mkdir, which makes the directory. So we're going to try it out, mkdir. So we are creating a directory or a folder. We're going to call it tutorials. Now, when I enter, realize that in my graphic user interface, suddenly tutorials folder has been created and there is nothing inside it. Okay, so that is a command to create a directory in the shell. Now to our fourth command, cd. This changes into a directory. So let's go try it out. We have created a directory known as tutorials, as you can see. Now we want to enter the directory. What command do we use for that? It is a command cd. Okay, then I'm gonna enter the name of the directory, and I enter. Realize that now the current working directory has been displayed over here, and that is the tutorials directory. Great. Now when I ls, you realize that there is nothing inside it. It's a completely empty directory. In the graphic user interface, when I open it, you realize that there is nothing inside it. Okay, great. Now to our fifth command. Our fifth command is touch, and this creates an empty file. All right, so you touch and then you bring the file name. Let's go try it out. So I'm going to touch, small cases. I'm going to touch, I'm going to create a file. Let's call it file1.txt, meaning that it's a text file. Now when you enter in my graphic user interface, you realize that suddenly file1.txt has been created, and that is really wonderful. So the command to create an empty file is touch. Let's go to our set command. Our set command is vi. So you vi and then you enter the file name. Vi is a text editor, and it creates a file or edits a file. Now I have an entire video on VI. You want to subscribe to this channel so that when I release it, you understand how to use the VI text editor. It's a really powerful text editor. Okay, so let's go try it out in our terminal. So I'm going to VI another file. We're going to call it file2.txt, and then I enter. Now you realize that the moment you enter, it brings you to an interface, and this is called the command mode. All right, in VI you can either be in the command mode or the insert mode. Now when you enter, it allows you to input text into your file. So let's try and input some text in here. Let's call this. Now to enter the insert mode, all you have to do is to press I in VI. Okay, and we are going to enter some text. So line 1, line 2, line 3. Now to exit VI, you use the command escape:_wq. All right, so I just enter and I exit VI. And when we come to my graphic user interface, you realize that suddenly the file2.txt has been created. When I open this file, you realize that we have the text that we imputed in this file displayed right in here, line 1, line 2, and line 3. So VI is a very powerful text editor that you can use to edit files or create files. Let's go to our 7th command, and it is the command cat or cat. This command displays the content of a file. It displays the content of a file right on the command line. Okay, so let's go try it out in our terminal. We're gonna cat. Remember, we entered some text in file2.txt. When we cat that file, realize that the content of that file is displayed right on our command line. So that is what you use a cat command for. Well, that is not all. Now to our 8th command, you realize that you can also use a cat command to create a file and even input a text into it. So now when you enter the cat command and bring a greater than sign and then the file name, it creates a file and imputes multiple line content into the file. So let's go try that out. Okay, so for us to see clearly, I'm gonna jump to one of the commands, which is clear, okay, because I want to clear my screen. Now that command is our 18th command, as you can see right here. But I'm going to jump to that command just for the purpose of what I want to do, and then I'll clear my screen. When you enter the command clear, it clears your screen. So I enter and I have a fresh screen to work with. Great. So we're going to cat and then bring the greater than sign. We're going to create a new file called file3.txt. Okay, now when I enter, I realize that the command line is waiting for me to enter more text. Okay, so let's say you're gonna enter some of the alphabet here: A, B, C, D, F, and let me enter some random text right here. Okay, great. Now to exit this mode from cat, what you need to do is to press Ctrl D. Okay, so I just press Ctrl D and I'm out of the cat mode. All right, great. Now, one more thing you can use the cat command to do is to append an existing file. So as you can see, we just created another file called file3.txt with a cat command. Let me increase the font here so that you can see that this is just what we created. Wonderful. Now, apart from creating files with the cat command, you can also edit a file with the cat command. And if you use one greater sign, you are creating a file. But if you use two greater signs, you are editing a file. So let's go try that out. Let's see the files that we have inside our tutorials directory. We have file 1, file 2, and file 3.txt. So we are going to cat file 3.txt and see what is inside it. Okay, great. As you can see, we have this random alphabet inside file 3.txt. Now we are going to cat with a double greater than sign and then a file name for 3.txt, and then when we enter, now it goes into the edit mode and it's waiting for us to enter some text in there. Okay, we are just gonna add. Okay, so let's say we're gonna add Leo, which is my name. All right, and we're gonna add moon speed, which is my other name. Okay, great. And then we're gonna add lion, which is the meaning of my name, Leo. Okay, great. So now I told you that to exit this mode, you press Ctrl D. Then I'm out of that mode. I'm gonna clear my screen. Wonderful. So now let's view the content of file 3.txt and see what has happened to it. So I'm gonna cat file 3.txt, and as you can see, all the things that we entered are displayed. You can see Leo, moon speed, and then lion as we entered it right there. Now if we check our graphic user interface right here, realize that we have everything we entered displayed right here. Wonderful. So I'm just going to exit. Okay, now one more thing you can use the cat command for. The cat command is a very powerful command. You can copy the content of two files and create a new file and put that content in a new file. So you have two files, you want to copy the content in all those two files into a third file, and when you're using a graphic user interface, you have to do it manually. Go and copy paste, go and copy paste. But the cat command allows you to do that with just a simple sentence. Okay, so let's go try that out. You cat the first file and the second file, you use one greater than sign, and then you bring the name of the third file, and this copies the content of two files into a third file. Let's go try that out. So remember that we already have our file 2.txt, file 3.txt, which contains some text. Okay, so let's cat file 2 file2.txt and see what's inside it. We have line 1, line 2, line 3. And then let's cut file3.txt and see what's inside it. We have ABC and some random alphabet. Okay, so I clear my screen, and now we are going to cut file2.txt and file3.txt. We bring our greater than sign. We are creating a new file, file4.txt, and then we enter. And then in my graphic user interface, you realize that suddenly another file called file4.txt has been created, as you can see right there. Wonderful. Now when I open that file, you see that all the text in file 2 and file 3 have been put together and brought over here. This is the power of the cut command. You want to try it out in your own terminal. Let's go to our next command. We are still on cut. Now when you want to display the line number in the file, you use a flag -b. There are several flags you can use with the cut command. So you cut and then -b, which is a flag, and then you bring the file name, and it displays the content of files with line numbers. Okay, so let's go try it out. We're going to cut with the flag -b, and then we're going to use file4.txt, which we just created. Now when we enter, you realize that we have line numbers in addition to our content. Maybe you are writing some C code, you have bettied your file, and then there's a certain mistake displayed in Betty on a certain line number. You don't know the line number, you can't count 1, 2, 3. No, you don't have to do that. Just cut with the flag -b, and then the line numbers of your code will be displayed. It's a very powerful thing you can do. Okay, now to our 12th command, which is a command we have been using, ls. So simply, let me clear my screen. When you ls, it just gives you a list of your current working directory. It simply means a list. You want to find out what is inside my current working directory, and all these files were just created right now. So that is what you use the list command for. But that is not all. There are several flags that you can use for the list command. In fact, the list command has the greatest number of flags, I think, in the shell. Okay, you can use flags all the way from A to Z and even more. Okay, but for now, we are just going to learn 2 of the flags that you can use for the list command. A flag is simply an additional command you can add to the original command. So we're going to try ls-l. Okay, and when you add a -l to the list command, it displays the contents of your file with more details. All right, so you can see these are the files we created: file 1, file 2, file 3, and file 4. However, we have many other details in here when we added the -l to the list command, and all these are very important meanings that you're gonna see as we proceed in UNIX shell scripting. Okay, the first column over here represents the file permissions, and then this is the username, and then this is the group name, the group that has access to the file, and then this is the size of the file in bytes, and then this is the modification time, and then this is the name of the file. As you can see, these are very important. Don't worry if you don't understand all of it right now, you are gonna get it as we proceed. So now, to one very important flag that you can add to the ls command is a -a flag, which is ls-a, and this is going to list the hidden files that are inside your directory. So when I enter, you realize that suddenly some files beginning with periods have been displayed, and these files were not created by me, because we only created these files, file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4. But suddenly we have this file here beginning with a dot, and then these other ones. Where did these files come from? They are hidden configuration files that are in every directory. Now I'm going to cd to my home. Okay, I'm going to cd home, and then I'm going to show you the power of hidden files. Okay, let me clear my screen. When I list the directories that are in my home folder, you realize that there are so many directories over here. Now in my graphic user interface, my home is over here. Let me minimize this. So you see that there are so many files in here, but you cannot see the hidden files. Now, if I clear my screen in my command line and I ls-a, it's going to list files and include the hidden files. So every file you see beginning with a period is a hidden file. Now in my graphic user interface, when I display my hidden files, you use the command shift command and you press the period. Okay, so I'm going to try it out, shift command period. And as you can see, suddenly several files which are hidden files have been displayed. And as you can see, they all begin with periods. All right, look at this file. It begins with a dot. Okay, now look at this file. It begins with a dot. This file begins with a dot. But the files that are not hidden do not begin with dots. So if you want to create a hidden file, all you have to do is to put a dot at the beginning of the name of the file or the directory. It's not only files that can be hidden, directories could also be hidden. So this is a folder or directory, and it is a hidden directory. It begins with a period, a dot, as you can see. So that is the power of hidden files. And the reason why the system decides to hide some files is that they are configuration files. The system does not want you to mess up with these files, so it will hide these files. And when you want to access them, you have to use the command ls-a. In a graphic user interface, use shift command and a period. If you are in a Windows PC, it's control shift and you enter the dot, and then your hidden files will be displayed. That is wonderful. So I'm going to clear my screen and then cd back to my tutorials directory. Awesome. We are back to where we started from. So we are going to our next command. Now to number 13, it is print working directory. So at every point in time, you are inside a directory in your shell. To know the current directory you are in, the command to use is pwd, which means to print the working directory. Now you want to watch my video on file system organization in UNIX. It explains what the root is. So every time when you print your working directory, it starts from the root, then it will give you the path all the way to your working directory. So as you can see right now, from the root we have users, then the user, moonspeed, then shell commands directory, and currently we are inside the tutorials directory. And when you ls, you realize that these are the files we created inside this directory. So it's like directories inside directories, and then the foundation of all directories is the root. That is very important to understand. Want to take your time and watch my video on file system organization in UNIX shell scripting. Okay, so number 14 is the command head. Then you bring the file name, and this command displays the top 10 lines of a file. So let's go try it out. Okay, so before we do that, let's enter content into one of our files and then try and display the first 10 lines. Maybe you have a file of about 1,000 lines. You just want to see the first 10 lines. You don't have to try and see all the content, and the command to do that is head. So let me vi into my file 4.txt. Then I'm gonna go into the insert mode and I'm gonna add more lines to it. Okay, and let's say line 4. Wonderful. So I just entered 30 lines inside my file 4.txt. Okay, so we are gonna try and use the head command to see how it goes. We have from line 1 to line 30 in here. So let me exit vi, and then we're gonna use the head command for file 4.txt. and now when we enter, realize that it displays the first 10 lines. This is the purpose of the head command. It's as simple as that. Now after the head command, we have the tail command, and this displays the last 10 lines of a file. So we're going to try it out. I'm going to clear my screen. Let's try it out, the tail command with file 4.txt. and when we enter, you realize that it displays the last 10 lines of a file. And this is very useful when you have a file with thousands of lines. You want to find out, okay, what's at the end of this file? What's at the beginning of this file? These are very useful commands for that. We move on. Awesome. So our next command is the tac command, and this displays the content of the file in reverse direction. So what you're going to do is to tac. Okay, this is like the reverse of cat. Cat displays the name of a file, but when you use tac, it displays the content of a file in reverse direction. Depending on the kind of shell you are using, it may or may not work. Maybe you are using the bash shell, Z shell. This command is deprecated in some shells. So I'm going to try it and see if it's going to work in my shell. So file 4.txt. It says that command not found. That's because in my shell, the tag command does not work, but in other shells it may work. So you want to try it in your shell. And what this command does is that it gives the content of a file in reverse direction. You want to try it out and see if it works with your shell. Now to the next command, which is the command more, and this command displays the contents of a file one page at a time. So let's go try it out. We are gonna more file 4.txt, and then when we enter, you realize that it gives us the content of the file one page at a time. Okay, so now if you want to scroll down, all you have to do is to press the space bar, and then it gives you the next page. Now if you want to go backwards, you just use the key B, and then it takes you backwards. So more helps you to read the content of a page, just like CAT, just that this time around you read it page by page. If you want to exit this interface, you just press Q and you come back to your command line. All right, I'm gonna clear my screen. Awesome. And to our next command, which is the command clear, and we already know what it does. It clears the screen. Then our 19th command is a command less. Now this command operates just like more. All right, so we are gonna less file 4.txt, and then when I enter, you realize that it gives me the content of the file one page at a time, just like the more command. Now the reason why the less command is more used than the more command is that it gives you more versatility to navigate through the files. You can even search the content of the file and a lot more. So instead of using the more command, a lot of people prefer to use the less command. So for instance, if you press the / while you are in this mode, you can search for a certain string or characters, and then if let's say you are dealing with a file of thousands of characters, you can search for a particular word and then it brings it up for you, so you can navigate your file easily. So I press my / and let's say I'm looking for line 28. Okay, line 28, and then when I enter, realize that it brings me straight to line 28. So when you use the less command, it allows you to set through the file and to navigate through the file easily. And if you want to quit this interface, just press Q and then it takes you off. That's wonderful. So to our 20th command, which is the command diff, D-I-F-F. Now this compares the content of two files. This command gives you the difference between two files. Okay, so I have file 1, file 2. I want to find out how are these files different. So I use the diff command to tell the difference between two files. Okay, wonderful. So I'm gonna see the content of, first let's ls and see. We have file 1 and file all the way to file 4. So let's cat file 2, okay, .txt, and let's see, it has the contents like 1, 2, and 3. And then let's cat file 3, and it has the contents, some random files, and then lion and line 1 at the end of it. Okay. So as we can see, the difference between this file and this file is that the only similarity they have actually is that they have one line, which is line 1. Apart from line 1, everything else in here is different from each other. Wonderful. So let me clear my screen and then diff file 2.txt and file 3.txt. And when I enter, you realize that all these are the differences between the files. Now line 1 is gone because that's the only similarity. And this command is really useful because it's like you might have two files that maybe is a copy of another. You don't know really what's the difference between these two files. So this command allows you to be able to tell the difference between two similar files. You're probably working on the configuration file. Maybe you have made a copy of it, you're not too sure which copy is which copy anymore. So this is a command that you can use to tell the difference between two files. And that is really useful. Okay, so now to our 21st command, which is the command ping. And I really love this command because it allows you to compare the connectivity status of a server. And let's go try it out. I'm gonna clear my screen. Then I'm gonna ping and enter. Suddenly you can see that I have some interface which you might not understand right now, but it lets you know that okay, the server I'm connected to is working or is not working. This command is a little advanced for those who are into networking and other stuff like that. Okay, so I'm not going to bother myself to go into it so much. So let me just clear my screen and move straight to the next command. Okay, then the next command is host name. Now this gives you the local host name of the machine or the device you're working on. So when I type host name, it gives me MacBook Pro local, and that is a computer that I am working on. That is the host name. Okay, now you can give this a flag to give you your IP address. So if I type host name -i and enter, it's going to give me my IP address, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want you to see my IP address. Okay, but you can try it on your own machine. Just type host name and then add the flag -i, and then you get your IP address posted at you. I don't want you to see mine. Okay, wonderful. Then to our 23rd command, which is the command history. Wonderful. You realize that as I'm working, I keep clearing my screen. So you might wonder, when I clear my screen, have I lost the information that I was working on? And the answer is an absolute no. The fact that you have cleared your screen does not mean you lost that information. Actually, everything is stored in the system. If you want to see what you have been doing throughout the time, the command that you use is history. And now when I enter, you can see that this is what I have been doing for all this while. And you can even go beyond that for the past 500 times and see what I've been up to throughout that time. Okay, so the history command is very powerful. It lets you see what you have been working on in the past. It's a very useful command that you can use. I'm going to clear my screen one more time. Wonderful. Then to our 24th command, which is the command NL. Then you bring the file name. Now this command displays the number of a line. Awesome. So just like how you can add a flag -b to the cat command to display the number of a line, now you can use the NL command to also display the number of a line. Let's try it out. So I'm going to NL file4.txt and I enter, and as you can see, the line numbers are displayed right beside the lines. So line 1 has the first line all the way to line 31, and as you can see, this can be very useful when you are debugging. Awesome. Now let me quit and clear my screen, and now to my 25th command. And I love this command so much, which is WC, and then you bring the file name, because it gives you the number of lines, words, and characters in a file. Let us go and try it out. The word count, WC, okay? Then let's use one of our files. Let's use file 4.txt because it has a lot of content, okay? And I'm going to enter. As you can see, it gives me the first figure. This first figure represents the number of lines there are in the file. Then this one represents the number of words there are in the file. And then this one represents the number of characters there are in the file. And this is the name of the file. A very useful command that you need to know. Awesome. Now to our next command, 26, is uniq, okay? UNIQ. Then you bring the file name. And this command removes duplicate lines in files. Now, but there is a condition to it. It has to be a continuous duplicate, or else it's not going to remove it. Okay, so let's go try it out and see what we are trying to say. Let's cat file1.txt. Realize that there is nothing inside file 1. So let's put some content inside file1.txt and then try and use the uniq command to see how it works. Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna say line 1. Okay, then line 2. Now I want you to watch this carefully. You realize that I have some duplicates inside this file. Okay, I'm repeating line 2 twice, and then I've repeated line 3 twice. However, line 2 is a continuous repetition, but line 3 is not a continuous repetition. What you do with the uniq command is that you use it to remove continuous repetitions, continuous duplicates. When I use that command, it's going to delete the continuous, which is line 2, but nothing is going to happen to line 3. Okay, let me exit VI and let's try this out and see what happens. So I'm going to do uniq and then file1.txt. Then when I enter, realize that the duplicate line 2 has been removed, but the duplicate line 3 is still there because it's not continuous. That is a condition in using the uniq command. Wonderful. Let's move on. Now, our 27th command is the command remove directory, and this removes an empty directory. You have to take note that it removes an empty directory and not just any directory. If it has content, it cannot remove it. All right, so here in our graphic user interface, let's try it out and see. We are inside our tutorials directory. Okay, so let's create a new directory, mkdir. You already know this command now, and let's call it remove. Let's call it directory remove. And then when we enter, realize that we have created a directory here called remove, because we are going to remove it. Wonderful. So let's remove directory remove. Now when you enter, it removes the directory. As you can see, it's gone. But what if we have a directory with contents? Let me clear my screen and create another directory. Call it remove. Enter. I'm going to cd into the remove directory. I'm inside it. Then I'm going to create a file and I'll call it file 7. Okay. .txt. So as you can see, I've created a directory and I've created a file inside that directory. So it's not an empty directory. Wonderful. Let's go see it in our graphic user interface. So this is the directory I just created. When I open it, it has a file inside it, file 7.txt. Awesome. So I'm going to try to remove directory. No, first let me see the out of it. Okay. I'm going to try and remove directory remove. Okay. Now when I enter, it says that directory not empty, which means that the remove directory command cannot be used to delete an empty directory. To delete an empty directory, there's something else you have to, to delete a directory which has content, there is something else you have to do. We're going to talk about it in a moment. All right. So to our next command, which is the command rm, our 29th command. And this command removes any file at all. Awesome. So in our graphic user interface, let's try and delete file 2.txt. Okay, so let me ls. We see that we have file 1, 2, 3, 4, and the new directory we just created, remove. Wonderful. So I'm going to try and remove file 2.txt. Then when I enter and I ls again, as you can see, file 2 is gone. When I come into my graphic user interface, file 2 just disappeared. So the rm command is used to delete any file. I'm going to clear my screen, and then I'm going to add a flag to the rm command, and that is what you use to delete a directory which is not empty. Awesome. So I'm going to ls again. As you can see, we have a remove directory here and it is not empty. When I open it, we have a file inside it, but I still want to remove it. So I'm going to remove and add the flag -r. rm-r is what removes a directory with content. Okay, so I'm going to enter the name of the directory here, remove, and when I enter an ls, you can see that the remove directory is gone. Now let me warn you here, this is not like the graphic user interface where when you delete a file, it takes you to the trash and you can recover the file when you want. When you use a command line to delete a file, it is gone forever. You cannot recover it. So you have to be careful when using these commands to delete files, because you cannot have it back. That's just a caution, by the way. Awesome. So now to our 30th command, which is chmod, change mode. And this changes the file permissions. If you want to understand file permissions in details, I've done a video on that and I've already put it on this channel. The title of that video is file permissions. So you want to take your time and go through it. It determines which user group or other person has access to which particular file. Okay, so you want to understand file permissions, that is what you use it for. You remember I told you that when you use ls-l, what is given here, the first column represents the file permissions. Wonderful. So let me clear my screen and then let's try and change mode of before I do that, let me ls-l. Okay, and then let's see, we're going to be working with file 1.txt. Take note of it. And these are the file permissions. They are divided into 3 classes. Okay, the dash over here just indicates that it's a file. If it was a directory, it's going to be a D. So let me make a directory and call it test. Okay, now when I enter an ls-l again, you realize that now a new directory called test over here has been created and it begins with a D. Okay, but all the rest are just files. That is why it begins with a dash. Wonderful. Now as you can see, the directory all the directories and the files are divided into 3 classes. So we have this first 3 sets, 1, 2, 3, and then we have the next 3 sets, 1, 2, 3, and then we have the last 3 sets, 1, 2, 3, and they represent the permissions for the user, the group, and others. Okay, take your time and watch my video on file permissions. It's really gonna impact you. So the first permission here, RWX, the R stands for read, the W stands for write, and the X stands for execute. So when the letters are represented over there, it means that you can either read, write, or execute. When the letter is empty over there, it means that particular permission is not there. That particular class does not have that permission. So for instance, with this particular file, file1.txt, the user has the read and write permission but does not have the execute permissions. Now the group has the read permission but they do not have write and execute permissions, and the same thing applies to others. Okay, wonderful. So we are going to try and change the permission of the first file, and let's see what happens. Now let's change mode, chmod. Now when you are changing the permission of the user is U, when you are changing the permission of the group is G, and when you are changing the permission of others it is O. But this time around we are going to change the permission of the user. So U, we are going to add plus the user does not have execute permissions, the X over here. So we are going to give the user execute permissions. All right, so U plus X, then we bring the file name, which is file1.txt, and now when we enter and we ls-l again, you realize that now the user has been given execute permissions. Initially, if you look over here, you realize that the execute permissions does not exist for the user. But when we added that permission for the same file, you realize that now the user has the execute permission. I don't have the time to go into details with this one over here, but I've already done that in another video. I'll add the tag to it so that you can just click on it and watch it after this one. Awesome. So to our next command. Our next command is a command password, and this resets the password of your shell. Let's go try it out. I'm clearing my screen, then I'll type in the command password. You don't type in the entire password as in password, but it's PASSWD, and when you enter, it will tell you to enter your old password. Let's say you want to change your password. I'm not going to change my password right now, so I'm not going to enter anything. And then when you enter, it says that now enter the new password you want to use. So you enter the new password, then you retype the new password, and it changes it. But because I didn't enter any password, it says token failure, because I don't want to change my password right now. Okay, so now to our next command is cp, and this command is used to copy files and directories and their content to another location. It works the same as the mv command, which moves files and directories or renames them. All right, I have a video explaining the copy and the move command into detail. I'm not going to go into detail over here with them, okay, but I'm just going to demonstrate so that you have an idea how the copy and the move commands work. But if you want to understand them to detail, watch the video on copy and move. The reason why I had to take my time to explain that is that you need to understand absolute parts and relative parts in copying and moving files around. So I had to take my time and explain that, and I didn't want this video to be too long. So you want to do that to copy a file. So let's say in our graphic user interface, if I want to copy a file, just copy and then paste. Okay, then I have the file1 copy.txt, just a copy of that file created. But how do I do that in the command line? Okay, so let's say I'm inside my tutorials folder at ls, and then I have a test repo here. Wonderful, which is over here. Well, let me open it and see that there's nothing inside it. Okay, so let's try and copy file1.txt into this test directory. So the command you use to do that is copy, then the name of the file I want to copy is file1.txt. Awesome. Now I'm going to copy it, and I'm copying it to the test repo. Okay, now when I enter, realize that I go and open it, and suddenly the file has been copied over here. And the move command works in the same way. I could actually decide to move it. So just in case I wanted to move this file into this, and I'm not just copying it, what I can do, I can move it and decide to rename it, or I can just move it and decide to keep the same name. So let's try and move that file1.txt. Okay, and then we are moving it into test, and then when I enter, I realize that I come here and the file is no more here because I've moved it into this directory. All right, and because there was a file in here already, it has replaced that file. So when you are moving a command, you have to be a file, you have to be very careful with that, or else you're going to lose some files. Take your time and watch that video I'm going to release on move and copy alone. Yeah, you're going to understand it better. Awesome. Let's move to our next command. Our next command is the command find. And this searches for files and directory. This searches for files and directories that match a specified pattern. So all you have to do is to type the find command and indicate where you want it to search from. It could search in directories, you could search in files, or all you have to do is to add the extra commands or flags that will determine where you are searching. You can even decide to search your entire system, and the find command can do it for you. I think I should make another video on the find command alone, because there's a lot that you can do with it. So let's go try it out. Good. So inside our terminal, we are going to find. Now we are finding files in the current directory. So the period you see over there represents the current directory. Then we are looking for the name of a certain kind of file. Let's say we are looking for, let's say file 4.txt. Okay. Then now you are looking for a certain file type. Yeah, so you're going to indicate that it's a type. So dash type and then F. Now when I enter, you realize that it prints out file 4.txt. Now you might not see the power of this until you are dealing with a folder or a directory that contains hundreds of thousands of files, and you have to browse through and you're like, how can I find this file? Now when you are dealing with tremendous amount of data or a huge amount of data, then you see how this command is really helpful. Okay, so I'm gonna make a video on the find command, and I think it will be very good to talk about it into more detail, so watch out for that video. Then our next command is command number 35, which is sudo. Okay, this command runs a command with administrative privileges. If you watch my video on the file system organization, I talk about the root user. So the super user is the one that has administrative privileges of all the file systems. Okay, so you can run the command as the super user, and the command to do that is sudo. So let's say I want to run the command ls as a super user, and when I enter, because it's expecting that you operate as a super user, it will ask for your password or the password of the machine, and when you enter that password, then they can give you the command. It can execute the command that you are giving it. If you are not the super user of the system, the Unix system you are working on, you cannot run commands as the super user because you don't have the password. Now as I run the command as a super user, you realize that it has given me all the details of the directory, because I wanted it to ls as a super user, and that is really useful. Wonderful. Now to our next command is the command echo. The echo command actually echoes back whatever you give to it. So let me go into my terminal. I'm gonna echo 1. Okay, so let me echo 1, and then it gives me back 1. It's like it's self-explanatory. If I want you to echo something back to me, I give it to you, echo it back to me. However, there is more you can do with the echo command. You can use it to create a file, or you can use it to append a file. Okay, let's go try that out. I'm gonna create a new file. I'm gonna echo. All right, the echo command can create a file, and it doesn't just create a file. You can input content into the file. Then I'll say some content here. Then I close my quotation mark, and I use the one greater than sign. Okay, then I bring the file name I want to create. Let's call it file 6.txt. And then when I enter an ls, you realize that I have created file 6.txt right over here, and I want to see the content of file 6.txt. File 6, and I enter, I realize that it echoes the content back to me, some content. So you can use the cat command to create a file, you can use vi to create a file, you can use touch to create a file, and you can also use echo to create a file and even input content into it. Now let's try and use the echo command to append a file, which means we are adding content to a file. If you use one greater sign, you are deleting the old content and putting the old content in, new content in. But then when you use two greater signs, it means that you are adding to the content of the file. So let's try and echo. This time around, we say new content. We use two greater than signs in the file we just created, which is file 6.txt. So now when we try to see the content of file 6.txt, you you realize that it has the first content we put in, some content, and new content. So you can use echo to create a file or add content to a file, append a file. It's a very powerful command that you should know of. Then our next command is the command grep, G-R-E-P. And I love this command so much. When we come to filters and pipelines, you are going to really see the power of this command. For now, we are going to try the basic function of this command, and you see how it works. It searches for a specified pattern. That is what the grep command does. So let's say we want to search through our file. Let's say file4.txt. Okay, so let's see the content of file4.txt. File4. Awesome. So it has a lot of lines all the way from line 1 to line 30. Okay, so I'm going to try and use grep to search for a certain pattern. You have to put it in quotation marks. So let's say I'm looking for line 3. Awesome. Then I bring the name of the file, which is file4.txt. Now when I enter, you realize that this search string or pattern that I'm looking for has been echoed back to me. So there is line 3 and then line 30, and the line 30 is here because it also has the pattern line 3, as you can see over here. So this is a very powerful command you can use to search through files or to search through directories. When we talk about filters and pipelines, you're going to see how powerful this grep command really is. Awesome. So let us go to our next command, which is the command top, T-O-P. This command displays system resource usage and processes. So let's go try it out. I'm gonna top and enter, and as you can see, I have so much going on here. All right, so these are the programs that I'm running currently on my computer, and as you can see, the program that's taking the greatest memory is OBS. It's taking 2 GB of my memory as a live process. That's because that's the program I'm using to screen record to you right now. And then I have this program working. You can see I have my terminal working because my terminal is also very active right now. And I have other programs. I have my Evernote because that is what I'm using to read the notes to you right now. So if you want to see what is happening in my system, which program is using the greatest memory, and what's happening, the command that you use for that in the shell is top. Wonderful. And then to exit, you just press Q, then you're out of the system. Awesome. Now to our next command, df, and this shows disk usage information. So let's go try it out. So df, and I enter. You realize that I have the file system, and I can tell how much is available, what's the capacity, which one is using more, which one is using less, and you can have so much information in here. And like I said, this is for system administrators. Okay, you want to be a system administrator, these are some of the commands you need to know. Now to our final command, which is SSH. This connects to a remote machine via a secure shell. I'm going to demonstrate something to you. I'm in ALX. Okay, so this is my terminal. I can actually run the ALX sandbox in my own terminal without opening the internet or without doing anything there. All I need is the SSH address and a password. Then I can be running the ALX sandbox right over here without necessarily using their sandbox in their system. Okay, and that is the power of the SSH command. So let's go try it out. Wonderful. So I am in my sandbox right now, and instead of just trying to open a web terminal which I can use to work over here, okay, I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to cancel. Then instead, I'm going to copy the SSH command, which means the secure shell. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to paste it in here. Okay, then I enter. When I enter, it requires my password. Okay, it requires my password. So I'm going to copy my password, then I enter. As you can see, suddenly I'm connected to the ALX sandbox right here in my terminal. And the reason why I'm not letting you see my SSH address is because if you see it, you can actually log in into my terminal and mess up with my work. So I'm not gonna let you see that. All right, so now let me ls and see what we have in here. You realize that suddenly I have my project that I've been working on in here because I've used the SSH to connect to a remote server, so I can access the files in that remote server and then work on them right here in my terminal. And this is the power of the SSH command. and you want to be using it often. Okay, so that is it for today. In our next video, we are going to be talking about a few more shell commands, and we are going to dive into more details with Unix shell scripting. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that when I release future videos, you are going to be notified. Till we meet again, happy coding.